Hey guys, VaulSC here. Hope that you're having a good week. I'd like to invite you to participate in a new Infinity tournament called the Sectorial Cup. This is a new league that I'll be hosting from around about the 3rd of November for maybe 4 or 5 weeks, depends on people signing up. If you want to just skip straight to it and skip the long YouTube video, go to the link in the video description and that will take you to this, if I can even do this correctly here. Oh, I need to be clicking this button here. This Sectorial Cup rules sheet, and once you read all of that, you'll see that within that there is a sign-up form, which will take you over here, and you can bash in your details so that you can play in the event. Cool. So what I'm going to do in this video is just give you my commentary and explainer of how the event actually works, but it's all going to be provided in that document. So go have a read of it and come chat with us in the Discord, and then get your army lists ready for the event that's coming up, and it should be a really, really good time. Okay? So that out of the way, let's talk about what this event is all about. It's called the Sectorial Cup because this is an event where you are not allowed to play a vanilla faction. You must play a sectorial. That means that if you normally play nomads, then of course you can play as Bakunin, Corregidor, Tunguska, but you can't play vanilla nomads, right? So vanilla Yuching, not allowed. Combined army, nope. Toha, no. All of those vanilla factions are a no. All of the NA2 sectorials are a yes. So you can play all of the NA2 ones with O12. You can't play over to O12, but you can play Starmada, for example. And that's generally the gist of it. And the reason why we're going to have a crack at this, and look, this is a one-off event. Don't be mad about it. I know that a lot of people sort of get annoyed when anything homebrew comes up, but this is a one-off event just to see what the format is like for people. And the reason why I want to do it is that it's generally a consensus right now that the vanilla factions in the game, specifically Nomads, Toha, I guess Combined Army, Hakislam, they are generally a lot stronger than most of the sectorials out there. Unfortunately, this is a blanket ban to vanilla where, you know, you look at O12 and Pan-Oceania and they aren't really up there, and there are a lot of sectorials that are more powerful than those vanilla factions. But we're doing it in a clean, easy to understand way where even like a new player to the game can understand, oh, these guys are doing a little side event where you have to play a sectorial. So you come along to the event feeling like, oh, if I want to play White Banner, I'm not going to go up against vanilla Ariadna. I'm not going to go up against vanilla Nomads. Those are extremely strong and very oppressive factions right now. And you can just rest assured that you won't actually have to play that matchup. You won't face that person. Instead, you'll be up against other sectorials, Akari Company, Shazvasti. You'll be up against that kind of playing field, all right? It has to be acknowledged that some sectorials are much better than others. So if you look at QK, you look at French Ariadna, they're not really anywhere near the level of your Corregidor, Hassassin Baram, that kind of thing. They're way up there. There's still going to be a disparity in the best factions and the worst factions, the rich and the poor. But that gap is a little bit narrower than, say, going, okay, QK and French Ariadna and Imperial Service and Starmada up against vanilla Ariadna with all of the bears and vanilla Nomads with all of the shenanigans that they can do, all right? So it's a little bit of a different playing field. And I find that this does balance the game a little bit. Not completely, of course, but I just want to do this as a way of finding out how people feel about it. Is this more fun? Is this interesting? Are there problems with it? And we're going to find that out with this particular event, right? One thing that I've done in my other custom league tournaments is that I've gone through and I've specifically messed around with the core rules of the game to tweak little bits and pieces. For example, changing how mines work, or MSV2, or total immunity, and berserk. And I used to do that to hit particular units that were a problem. So for example, you look at vanilla Ariadna, it's not so much that the faction overall is the problem, it's specific units like the Polaris Bearpode. So by tweaking the Bearpode and making that a little bit worse with Berserk and Total Immunity taking a little bit of a hit, you're sort of helping to nerf Ariadna and Cosmoflot. But the problem with that approach was really just the way it was received. A lot of people in the community just couldn't really understand what the nerfs were really trying to do, and just, found a way to disagree and be contrarian about it. So I'm just taking another approach. We're just having a look at it from a different angle, where it's like, okay, play your sectorial, and you can still take the really powerful stuff. There's no real need to nerf individual bits and pieces, because just not being able to play the sectorial that can take most of that stuff does away with a fair bit of the problem. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We're going to give that a go. A lot of this other stuff in the rules document is just copy pasted from other events, so you can see the sign up form here. Don't have to pay to enter. For prizes, you get a special gold roll in my Discord, yay. But there's also a trophy that'll appear in the mod, and I make a lot of fun little gifts these days, so I'll celebrate you in by making one for you if you like. A lot of this stuff, you need to read through it, you need to understand it. But let's talk about the other thing that has changed as specific to this particular event. So what I normally do in my events is I say that you can just write your list before every game, and you can have a different list every game. And the reason for that is because way back when we first did tabletop simulator leagues, we tried fixed list, and what would happen is a lot of people would lose, they'd blame their lists, they would feel fatigued, and they'd go into like the 4th or 5th round 5 or 6 weeks later and feel just stuck that they have to play that list. It caused some people to drop out, and it was just a real downer, and a lot of people cried out for a better format, and that's why we changed to flexi lists, which is where you can make a new army list right before the game starts every single time. Then, of course, a different group of people started complaining a while later, saying that, look, that just means that my opponent's always going to tailor their list to my faction. So if I play Ariadna, they're going to always have, MSV or whatever they need to stop me, and they'll just build their list around it, and I don't really like that. So I had a bit of a think about that, and I just wanted to try just something slightly new this time. If you have a careful read through this explainer here, this little rule system, what it's saying is that you start by submitting 2 army lists, just in the normal way you would for ITS, and you send them to my email address there, tabletopsimulatorleague@gmail.com. And you have to stick with one of those 2 lists for every game. So at the start of every round, you pick one of those lists, and only one of those lists, and you play it. But as soon as you get a draw or a loss at any point in time in the event, you drop back to using flex lists, which means that the winners of the early rounds will go on to face each other and will still be locked into their lists. But the losers are dropping down to the bottom tables, and they get to basically switch to a more casual format of making new lists every time. And I think that the real benefit of that is twofold. First of all, the people who were complaining to me about other people, designing lists to counter their faction were typically the stronger players who felt a little bit more sensitive about, fairness in the later rounds. Okay, so we are trying to keep them happy by saying, look, if you manage to keep winning your games and you legitimately have a shot at winning the event, you will have to play against people who will be stuck with their army lists that haven't, designed lists to counter your faction. Whereas the people who are losing the games, they're the people who typically more are of the mindset and the mentality that they weren't happy with their lists, they made a mistake, they're still learning about the game, and they want to, they want to exercise what they've learned and really put into practice, their little lessons from their games by implementing a new army list, and this gives them that very chance. So they don't have to, go into the future rounds feeling like they're completely stuck with a list that, was a losing list, right? Now, the big drawback and the side effect of this, which some people won't like, is that occasionally I will have to pair up someone who's won a game against somebody who's got a draw or a loss, and one person will have the advantage of being able to write a list for that match, and the other person will be stuck with one of their 2 lists. I know that some people will complain about that, but if you think about it very carefully and really dwell on it, I really feel you come to the conclusion that it doesn't really matter. It's a negligible disadvantage. It's not going to come up very often. The person who's stuck with one of their fixed lists still has an incredibly good chance of winning. So long as you're playing better, rolling better dice, it's likely you will probably beat that person. Okay? And again, it's not going to come up for every match, only, once or twice at the most per round. If that, okay? So don't worry about it too much. We are making some maps for this event. A few of the maps will be rehashed from other people's maps and my previous maps. A couple of them will be maps that submitted to me by the community. If you would like to submit a map for this tournament, I'll definitely have a look at it. Just DM me the map sometime over the next week. Event-specific rules. So I've really tried to keep out the homebrew from this event because I feel like the catch-all sectorial-only system does the trick. Really, it does clear out a lot of the problems that we have with competitive game balance. I will still say though that we don't want any of that jank to creep in from that FAQ that came out a while back, where you can basically trick templates into not working a lot of the time. If you don't know what that is, don't bother asking. It's not something that really affects our game because we choose to ignore it. Same with measuring mines and stuff. The FAQ basically said that you have to show your opponent where all of your markers are and what's underneath them. We're not going to play that way. And lastly, if you haven't already seen my show, Table Game Fun Times, please check it out. It's a really cool show, and even if you didn't like the first few episodes, it's gotten much better. And in the most recent one, we brought out this new homebrew unit called the Rapid Enforcement Cruiser. It's like a cop car. It's like a tag for O12, and you're allowed to play it if you pick Star Martyr for this tournament. And if you want to know a bit more about it, here is the profile for it, and some of the rules are discussed in the episode of Table Game Fun Times itself, and there's a link to that. So please do watch it and let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Just a warning, this tag is not going to be viable on some of the maps. You won't even find a spot to put in your deployment zone, let alone move it around the table for some of these maps. So be careful about using it. Don't put it in both of your lists. Just put it in one of your lists. For the love of God. But hey, if you do give it a go, let me know how it turns out. And I uploaded a bat rep recently against Bad Lazar with me playing it with mixed success. So yeah, hope to see at least a couple of Star Martyr players, and look forward to seeing your signups, guys. So let me know what faction you want to play. I'll put you on the list, and we'll see you in the server playing some games next month.